So I've just kicked off the recording. I'll start off the process and do a little bit of introduction. My name is Joshua Tooley. I'm the Associate Director of IT Support. I'm here with Austin Counts. Austin is on managing the chat and will be doing part of this presentation later on to talk to you a little bit today about moving your technology and preparing this move into Harrison. That if you were on the technology icebreaker earlier this week, there were a lot of things that we already covered that we're going to go over here, but we're going to dig in a little bit deeper. We're going to provide a little bit extra detail and kind of give you some resources to start preparing for your overall move. So a couple of ground rules to start off with is keep in mind that the chat functionality is the way that we want you to ask questions. So I'm going to post a question to chat right now. I'm going to say, welcome everyone. You should see the little chat option in your Zoom menu bar pop up with a little orange icon indicating that there was a chat. Please feel free to post your questions there. Austin is online. Austin is also going through and he'll be answering some of those questions for you. Karen, I already see that there's a question that's already been posted. Go ahead and try those sessions again after you've actually logged in, and it should let you in. If not, call the help desk and we'll work through that process for you. Karen was posting a question to the chat already for us, so thank you for doing that. So again, make sure to continue to post your questions to chat. We'll definitely try to get back to you as quickly as we can with answers. And Austin will probably have a couple of stopping points where he may say, hey, Josh, I want to clarify this to the team about what's going in. So I'm going to get us started. Thank you for joining today. We'll be done in somewhere about 35 to 45 minutes, somewhere in that range, depending upon how many questions come in. And again, this session is recorded. We also have one of these already online as well. So definitely a way to get access to some of the great resources that are already available to you. So I'm going to get us started, get the presentation rolling on. So step one in this process is really realizing that there are a ton of resources already available to you. I'm going to pull up my web browser real quick. I'm going to visit this website, which is it.tcu.edu/Harrison. This is an online IT resource that may answer most of your questions that are out there today. So I'm at least just going to go visit this site right now. And at least show you a couple of things that are out there that you just need to be aware of. So today in this preparing to move section, we're going to cover these three areas right here: the introduction, the moving your technology, and moving your equipment. The introduction section is going to include a checklist, which I'm going to refer to later on in the process. Moving your technology is really kind of thinking through, how are you going to organize your documents? What are you going to do? It's even got a digitizing your document process and help guide that's out there, information about phones and printers and other pieces. And then down towards the bottom, it's going to have your moving plan. Those are the three items that we're going to cover as we go through this process. You'll have already seen this moving plan and kind of know what's occurring and who's moving on what days. A lot of stuff that's going to be happening all within a short period of time, especially since we're only a few days away from our very first move with the Chancellor's office. So lots of great information we're going to try to push along. I hope you've already been doing a lot of this, because there's a lot of work that goes into prepping your files to move and being ready for some of this. But this is kind of to help reiterate some of the important parts of that overall process. So right off the bat, let me go ahead and go back and we'll talk just a little bit more about a couple of other resources before we get into some items that are on this site. I will tell you, if you are curious, and I'll even scroll down a little more, if you are curious about some of the other resources from a technology standpoint that we're doing training on, like either Ring Central or Papercut, or even the Crestron collaboration spaces and other stuff that's out there, and Air Media, we already have tons of video content that's already online and giving you the opportunity to interact and learn with some of the stuff that's there. Some of it might be slightly different than what you are already used to or what you might be using in the space, but it's going to give you a really good feel and an idea for how to use some of the different things that are out there. The other thing that I'll always remind you of is to go in and register for training. This little section right here that says register for training is taking you to the link that we sent out via email about different ways to register for future training sessions. So just keep that in mind, know that that's available to you, and know that that's out on this website. So it.tcu.edu/Harrison is your best starting point, your best resource for trying to learn some of the pieces of technology that are happening, and for us to provide as much detail as we can about helping you prepare for this overall move. All right, so again, continue to post your questions to chat. Austin is answering some of those questions. He's posting some of that information out there, and we're working through that process with you as we speak. Okay, so preparing your computer to move, and there are a couple of things that I want you to note. We did go over these kind of in a very light manner during the icebreaker session, but the first one was about digitizing your files, and the second part I'm going to talk about is really moving your digital files to the right place. So I'm going to pull up a document off of the Harrison website. I've scrolled down just a little bit to digitizing your documents. This is a tips for helping to prepare to digitize your documents and think through the things that are out there. And I'm just going to go over some of the primary concepts that this puts in place. One, take an audit of the paper that you currently have available. I think one of the things when I made my last move that really helped me to reduce the types of paperwork and other things that I was moving into my new space was understanding what I had to start with. I had taken over a new position, the filing cabinet's full of paper, but I didn't really know what was in them. It was from previous supervisors and previous people that had handled the role, and really there was a tremendous amount of content that I needed to go through and did not need. And so really understanding that your first step in digitizing your documents is taking an audit of what you have today. The second part of that was, which was really important for me, was sorting my documentation into categories. So just like I'm going to talk about later on, when you start planning to store your documents and move them to specific locations, one of the important parts of that was also ensuring that you created categories for the documents that you're already putting in. It could be like creating folders like you have in your cabinet today, but maybe you don't need all of those files. So you need to recreate your categorization structure. Again, an important part to digitizing your documents. And remember, there are different ways to digitize your documents. Could be taking pictures of the documents. It could be as much as scanning the documents in your copiers and moving them to PDF or other file types. Some of them could be just assessing whether or not there was actually a need to have that document to start with. I think that's one of the most important parts of it, was especially when I was going through my last move, was helping me think through what did I need and what to take with me, what was I obligated to take with me, and what were things that were not really important anymore and that someone felt were important, were storing in the past that I didn't need. And so that was a question I had to ask myself a lot. Coming up with not only categories, but also naming schemes and consistent naming for searchability in the future was extremely important, especially since a lot of these files that you'd be scanning in are going to be flat files on your copier, so it won't have searchable text in them. So you're going to rely very much on the names of the files that you're scanning in. And then talking about file storage locations. I'm going to skip over this part because I'm going to talk about these same file storage locations when we talk about where you should be storing your files once you do digitize them, or dealing with existing files that you currently have. And the last statement on there was really pointing you off to the academicadmin.com website that really talks about the discard, the shred, and the store paper document processes and policies that we've already been talking about. So again, we're just reiterating things that we've already been discussing in all of these previous presentations that we've been having in terms of the town halls. So this great document is out there on the Harrison Move website under the Digitizing Documents download file. Great little quick way to start thinking through your process as you're on this journey. Some of you may be at different stages. Some of you may already be done, and others may, in some cases, be starting a small portion of this journey. We know it takes a lot of time, but it's important to be minimizing and ensuring what you are bringing over is important. Okay, let me go back to the presentation again and talk about this second item that's here. So moving your digital documents, whether it's the ones you just digitized or it's your existing documents that are out there, that I think are an important component of this planning process. And one of the things that I want to say is it's important for you to begin that cleaning process and ensuring what you've done on your machine for two reasons. One of them being to minimize what we have to do to move your files over when we do a backup. So when we have to come do a backup of your old computer to transition to your new computer that's in Harrison, it's going to be extremely important to minimize what we have to pull off of your machine. It reduces the time it takes a technician to do the backup. It reduces the chances that some files may come up missing or placed in a folder that's harder for you to find. The less that you have on your physical C drive, the easier it is for us to make an overall transition for you. And I want you to treat a lot of this as it's spring cleaning time. We didn't get much of a spring cleaning time because of COVID, and a lot of us were down in lockdown. Some of you might have done this on your machines when you had time, and others may have been covered up with new requirements for their job or new things that they were having to do to keep going. And so they may not have had that opportunity. And I want you to treat this as an opportunity to do some spring cleaning. But when you work on your machine, and I'm going to show you an example in just a second, When you're working on your machine, the goal is to get your files off of the main drive of your machine. You're trying to put them in shares, or you're trying to move them to things like box.com. And I always have people go, well, why should I be putting my files in shares instead of storing them on my computer? And I will tell you, there are a lot of things that can happen to your local computer that you had no idea or even thought about. The hard drive could die, the machine could be damaged, the machine could be stolen. All these things that you did not plan for could occur to your machine and create a situation where you may not have the opportunity to recover those files. So moving these files to your TCU shares or putting them in box, first off, puts them in a place where that data is backed up. And that is the most important thing. If you came into my office today, pushed my computer off my desk and said, hey, Josh, haha, you can't work anymore, all it would take is a new machine for me in about 5 minutes to connect up to my shares and my box account, and I would be fully operational again without even taking a different step. And so I want you to think through that process from your business operational standpoint to try to get yourself to where these files are backed up and in the right place. Not only are you cleaning them off to ensure that it makes it easier for us to transition you away, but then also ensuring as well that you have a backup of the critical data that's there. So I will tell you this. I don't want, when we come in and begin your backup process for your desktop, to look like this. If your desktop looks like this and you've got tons of files on it, and actually this was just a bunch of junk that I put on the folder because generally I only have 1 or 2 little bitty things on my desktop. But if your desktop looks like this, you haven't really been going through the process of cleaning up and organizing your files. And there are 2 or 3 things that I want you to think through when you're digitizing, either when you're digitizing the files that you have that are physical today, or you're dealing with existing files that you have. Part of it is really dealing with categorization and ensuring that you've created a structure that you understand in the process, that you're putting files in folders that you can go find later on. Because remember, this is a new process, a new way for you to find and interact with files. So one of the things that I did was I just threw some files on my desktop, 2 different types of files. And I know that all of these files over here are a project that I'm working on about a bulk sale that's going on and some different things that we're dealing with different pieces of technology. So the first thing that I'm going to do in my journey, at least from my desktop perspective, is work on these files on my desktop. And so I'm going to drag those in. I created a new folder called bulk sale. That's my project that I'm working on. It's actually an active project with all the things that I already have. So I'm moving that into my active projects folder. And then I know I have these 4 or 5 projects over here that I've also got that are on the back burner that I've been working through. And so again, I'm going to move those into my active projects. Okay, well, somebody said, thought yesterday, oh, well, Josh, look, you got a clean desktop. You're good to go. Well, I've got everything in this active projects folder, but I did not go through the process of actually moving this to a backup share. And so that's the important part. Don't think that just moving all of your files into one folder and leaving them on your desktop or leaving them on another local location on your computer is the starting point. No, now it's time to start taking those files that are critical that you know you needed and that you've already looked through and moving them to your shares or moving them to your box share. So I'm going to pull up 2 different items for you. One, if you're on a Windows machine, you can click on the little, you've got to be on campus to do this, of course. You can click on the little folder icon. It's going to pull up the different shares that you have available to you. And these 2 shares right here are the shares that I want you to make reference to. One of them is your home file. That's your personal file. That's only files that you can see. No one else can see the files in your home file or your M drive. Your common file is a departmental share. So that means everyone in the IT department in this particular share can see the files that are out there. So if I had placed these active projects in my home file, that would be just for me. If I had placed these files in my common file, everyone in my department would be able to see them. So that is not the place to put salary data or performance reviews or critical information that does not need to be shared within the department. So be very aware of that, of the difference between a common file share, and you can see I have several common file shares. These are groups of individuals or shares that have groups of individuals that have access to them versus my home file share. If you need additional space or run out of space, we're more than happy to work through some quota increases for you. So know that that's an option. But one of the things that I'm going to do is just demonstrate quickly to you that what's on my C drive, this is my hard drive, this is where my active projects are currently stored right now. I'm going to move these files over to my actual home file share. And it is as simple as dragging and dropping the one file over. You see it copied over. I'm going to resort this list and scroll up to the top, and now you'll see my active projects list. Well, now I've got 2 copies of the file. I've got a copy of the file up in my share, and I've got a copy of my file in my desktop. Where do you think that I should be working on files going forward? Most people would be like, well, I would just keep clicking on the file on my desktop. That's the inaccurate thought process. Once you have backed up your data to a location and you've taken a look at it and it looks good and you feel like everything has come across appropriately, all the files are opening up right. Once you've made a backup of that file, what you need to do is remove that file from your C drive so it's no longer located on your computer. Once it's in a backup share like your home file or your common file share, that data is backed up incrementally on a daily basis and then on a weekly basis during the weekends, a full backup of all that data. So once you're moving it into these shares, you've now put that data in a space that's already protected and already backed up. So I no longer need to work from these files here on my desktop. I'm going to throw those into my recycle bin. And anytime I need to work on my active projects from now on, I'm just going to go straight to my home file share, open up active projects, and I'm going to work on my projects from there. I had someone think yesterday, hey, well, Josh, I'm working remotely. How do I get access to these file shares when I'm not on campus? Well, there are 2 ways to do that. One, you can use the VPN and remote desktop to remote into your computer like this today. And then the other part of it is giving you the opportunity to access your home file shares through the web. So if I opened up my home file share and I go over here and I go to fsftp.tcu.edu, I can log in. This is a little bit clunky. It's not the perfect interface, but I will tell you it does. I've used it several times to get access to the things I need. And when I get in here, I immediately have access. And thanks, Austin, for posting this to the chat window. I should, and it's taking a little bit for it to load up, it should show me a list of all of the files that I have in my home file share. And I'll keep waiting for it to load up. There we go. You'll notice that folder that I just drug over to my home file share is now available in the web. There's my bulk sale, my Qualtrics, my Harrison, all of those projects that I was working on are there. Well, one of the reasons I say this is a little clunky is that it's not like I can edit the files directly from the web here. I have to download the file, edit on my computer, and then I can upload a replacement file up to the web. But anything that you put back in here is going to show up in your M drive or in your home file share, which will be over here on your machine itself. So keep that in mind, that that is an opportunity for you to interact with the files either using remote desktop and the VPN connection to get into your computer directly, or by allowing you to use the web interface to access your home file share. That is not available for the common file shares that are shared by multiple people. That's where things like Box or other solutions might come into play. So some of you might and might not have utilized Box in the past, and I'm going to introduce this tool to you. If you visit it.tcu.edu/box, this is a fantastic online cloud-based file storage solution. We have terabytes and terabytes of data out there. Thousands of users have been using this tool. It's been a really great tool, but if you've never used Box before, this is the best introduction site. We've got an online webinar about it. We've got tons of learning material that's already online, information about quotas and other things, but really the big difference between Box and your shares is that Box is available through a web interface anywhere in the world, and it's available on an app that I can install on my computer. So you see right over here, I have Box Sync installed, so you can see all of my files that I already have up in Box, as well as a mobile app I have on my phone. And I pull up files that I have in Box all the time on my phone. So it's really a great collaborative tool, and where it sets itself apart from the home file or common file shares is that with Box, I have the opportunity to then share content with other users that are external to TCU, or collaborate with individuals that I have at TCU. And I can visit tcu.box.com, which is the website, or actually if you're on the IT website for Box, you can click on log into Box here, and it takes me straight into my Box files through a web interface. So just like you saw before, where you saw that I was logging into my home file shares using the FSFTP solution that was out here, I can use Box to do the same type of thing, but it's a much more robust platform. giving me capabilities to do so much more with some of the things that are out there. And I can even share files with others. I've got the little shared folders that are here. I've got individual files that I can have. I can send out links. I can edit with multiple people online. Box is a really tremendous resource that's out there and giving you flexibility and capability to use, especially when you're in the process of moving files off of your computer. So now, just a great demonstration of the fact that I've cleaned off my desktop. I have 1 or 2 files that are here, but that's not that big of a deal to back up or move on to another machine. In this case, I've now backed up the files on my desktop. I've put them in a better place. I now have a contingency plan for them. If something happened to my computer, I still have the ability to access them through another machine or just by logging into windows.tcu.edu. The other thing to keep in mind is that there are other places where files hide. Things like your documents folder. I've got multiple files in my documents folder. Things like my downloads folder. That's another folder that's got tons of stuff. Music, pictures, videos. If you take a look at your machine and go into your profile, take a look at these other locations and where you're storing files, and make sure that you're backing up appropriate files and that you're removing the files that you no longer need. If you have questions about this process, don't worry. Call the help desk. One of our technicians will walk you through the process and give you some ideas about what's good to keep and what might not be, and where to store them and how to set things up, and even how to access them when you're no longer on your machine. Now, the other big challenge to moving your files to a file share, and I said there were really 2 good reasons. There are really 3 good reasons to moving your files to a file share or into Box, and that comes to when you're moving into Harrison. There may be a situation where you don't have access to your computer for a day or 2 based on the move or based on how something's set up in Harrison. Something might not go well in terms of a network drop not being configured or set up right. And you may be without a computer for a period of time, maybe part of a day or a whole day. And so it's important to understand how you can still get access to these same resources through using tools like Box or your file shares, because they're always actively available on another machine. So you don't always have to work from your current machine. You could move to your personal machine. There are tons of different opportunities and flexibility components that get added in when you look at the file shares that are available to you, as well as using Box to store and manage your files moving forward. So I know I harped on that a lot. I think that's a really, really important thing that we should all be doing, not just when we're going through and preparing for a move, but things that we should be preparing for and doing on a regular basis. So the other thing that I want you to do is take a mental note of where things are located and be ready to access them when you move. So keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier, there may be a time when you can't get access to your computer in your office for whatever reason. And we're going to ask you to be very flexible, because there's situations that may happen. If you mentally understand and know where are your files stored, what's your file structure, when people ask you, hey, did we get all of your files? You have the ability to immediately go in and check. Yes, you got the important files I was working on. Here's where these are. It's important to make sure you've taken a mental, maybe even a physical note. I've had some people I've worked with who said, you know what, I'm going to take my phone and I'm going to take a picture of the screen on my computer, because this is how my folder structure is built out, and I want to make sure that I caught this stuff. And it's just a reminder to me of the things that I had available. It's just another way to prepare yourself to be ready and know what you really have available to you when you're asked questions about the data that's there, if we got it, if it's in the right place, what are you looking for? That's an important part of this overall move process, is being very aware of what your needs are, what data you're working with today, and where it's currently stored. That's a very, very important critical item. All right, let me go on and talk a little bit about another item in preparing to move. Really, when you go through this moving process, we put together a nice little checklist to help you think through, did I complete everything I needed to as I was getting ready to move my technology? That again is on the Harrison website. So if I go to it.tcu.edu/Harrison, visit the site and click on this checklist right here. This checklist will actually take you to Box, so it's just a great example of showing you how you can share out files through the web. One of the items that I really want to hit in close on is thinking through about creating a list of applications on your computer. So earlier, I was telling you to be very aware of the software, or the app, or sorry, not the software, but the documents and the files that you have on your computer, and having a mental note of what's there, where it's at, what you're supposed to have. But I think it's extremely important as well to create an internal list of the applications you use on your computer. So when you move to Harrison and you interact with our technicians, you have an opportunity right there to say, hey, does this machine have this? And does this machine have this? And did you get this installed for me? Those are important parts of the conversation and understanding what you need so you can communicate that to the individuals that you're working with. So be very conscientious of creating a mental note or a physical note of where your files are stored, what's important, what are things that you need to check on when your data gets backed up, but then doing the same thing on the software side of things on the computer and really making sure that you understand what you need and what you have available to you. There's some other really great tips that are out here, things like setting up an out of office message maybe during your transition days to say, hey, I'm going to be slow to get back to you. Some things about how to access your email remotely, which we'll go through. Things about attending these training sessions. Those are all going to be important parts of that stuff. So again, I'll leave this document out there for you to be able to use. It's on the Harrison site, but it's just a quick, easy way to start thinking through what do you need to do and how do you need to prepare for this overall move and transition. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over to Austin. Austin's been working on trying to kind of plan the backup process and how we're going to get your data from one machine to the other if you're getting a new machine. So I'm going to let Austin unmute his line for a little bit and talk a little bit about this process, give you some details and help you kind of understand what's going through. So Austin, will you take it away?
Yes, thanks, Joshua. So this will be a two-part process. The first part will consist of the actual backup of your existing computer. And then the second part will involve restoring data and programs to your new computer in the Harrison space. So for the backup process, we're still receiving lists of anticipated move-in dates. But once we get those for a given individual, a backup team member will be assigned to that person and help them schedule a time to meet with them and actually complete that backup. So once a user has been assigned to a backup team member, they'll actually reach out to you with our scheduling site, and they'll provide you with a link to where you can pick a day and time that is most convenient for you. So when the backup team member meets with you on that day, they'll actually help you identify any special software installations, additional mailboxes, setup and preference information, things like that we'll need to make sure transfer over to the new machine. So once all of that information is identified and the backup is complete, the backup team member will actually help you schedule a time with the restore tech over in your new Harrison space. So the actual restore process, you'll meet with the restore technician to restore the data to the machine. They'll help ensure that all previously identified items are present on the new machine and that it's configured correctly. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, Joshua. So some general computer move notes. The only thing you'll need to move is not personal printer, I'm sorry, ImageNow scanners, any approved printers that you might have. Your existing computer, with the exception of a few individuals, will remain in your old space. If you're a Mac user, those will be handled a little bit differently. A backup team member will actually reach out to you and have you bring your machine directly to your new Harrison space, and we'll do the transfer there on site. If you're already on RingCentral, if you already have a Polycom RingCentral phone, you'll need to pack that up along with your personal belongings to have those moved over, or to have that moved over as well. A lot of individuals are working from home, obviously. Part of that process with the backup team member is that they'll help you schedule a time to make sure that that computer is back on site. We will need the machine on site to perform the backup. If you have an ImageNow device, please try to keep the scanner plugged in. There's a process to release a token, and there's licensing procedures that we need to follow for that. And then only approved workgroup printers, like I said, will be allowed in the new building. You should already have that approval from your VC, and you should know who you are. That's all I have.
Awesome. Thanks, Austin. One of the things that I will kind of point out, and we talked a little bit about this in the session yesterday, one of the reasons that we're scheduling your backups and your restores in 2 different phases is really to allow for social distancing. We only have so many techs that can do a backup and so many techs that can do a restore at any given time. And so what we're going to do is giving you the opportunity to plan the time to come on site with our technicians, which would spread out, give us the opportunity to spread out. Instead of coming to an office full of people and that we're interacting with all in one space, it gives us the opportunity to work with individuals during their set time, complete their backup, and then schedule their meeting to help chauffeur them over to the restore team to allow that team to do and schedule your meeting and get your data backed up and get your machine set up as well. So just understand that we're kind of putting you through this process because we want to allow it to take place over time, to spread team members out, and to allow you to choose when you have availability to come on site, because we also recognize that not everybody's sitting in their office right now. And so a lot of people are at home and need to know and make plans to be able to come on site and work with the technician that's there. When we're doing your backup, we do need to have you there. There are things that you have to do on the machine and be able to point out to us by logging in that are important for our backup techs to be able to capture. That can be done at a distance. If there's concern about interacting with one individual in that way, we will be following safety protocols on those types of things. But just be aware, work with your backup technician. They will accommodate you in any concerns that you have, and they're going to try to work through getting you through this process as painlessly as possible and ensuring that we do our best to capture everything for you and ensure that your experience when you move into the new building and into Harrison is positive. All right, so I'm going to move into some of the easy stuff, and these are some big reminders for all of us as we move through this overall process. And part of this is about being flexible as we move. I will honestly tell you, there are a million things that go on in a construction project, and IT tends to be the last set of people that come in. So we're seeing a flurry of crazy activity, and then we're getting in, and then all of a sudden we might have less time than we had planned on to be able to get some of these things done or get things tested and get you going in the right direction. So I always tell everyone as they're going through a move, be flexible. Understand that things might not work exactly as we had planned them, but we are going to work with you and stick with you to try to make sure that those things are accounted for and taken care of. So don't ever hesitate to ask our restore team and either Austin and I, who are going to be in both buildings doing a lot of work, if you have questions or you have issues that need to be addressed. Anytime that we get you set up and get you configured, our goal is to get you to about 90 to 95% of your regular working capacity, and know that that last little 5 to 10% just takes time. Sometimes it's waiting on a piece of software to come in. Sometimes it's helping you be able to go through your files and make sure that what you have is in the right places. Sometimes it's just getting used to using a new computer. That's that little last 5 to 10% of allowing you to be productive in those spaces. And that's our overall goal. We're going to try to get you to that point, but just understand it's going to take you a little while to get to that point, because we're going to have to back up your data, help you with setting up your phones, put your data back on your new machines, help you with installing software, help with all the nuances that go with things that people might not always know about their old machines and expect with their new machines. There's going to be a lot of those little things, and I just want you to be aware of that. But number one, as we go through this flexibility process, is know where your data is. I talked about this earlier. If you put your data in shares and you put your data in Box, you know where it is and you can access it remotely if you need to. So you're never fully down in those cases. You could always go to another machine. You could always use a personal machine. There are always opportunities to allow you to continue to be productive, even if the machine that you're sitting at may not be fully up and operational yet. The other thought process about this as well is making sure that you know how to access email through the web. There are a lot of people I find that go, hey, well, if I don't have Outlook, I can't check my email. And I immediately turn around and go, have you ever heard of Outlook Web Access? Which is a website that we have called mail.tcu.edu. And a lot of them never heard of it. It is a great opportunity to be able to log into your email through a web interface. It is a more simplified version of your email, and it doesn't have your PST files and may not have all your contacts, but it does allow you to manage your email, understand what's going on, send replies out to individuals. It's a very robust tool. We have some people who only use the web interface and don't even use Outlook. And so know that that's an option. Even if you don't have a computer in front of you, you can pull up your mail on your mobile device, on your personal device. You don't have to have Outlook installed. You could just use the web interface in mail.tcu.edu in order to allow you to continue to work and work through the processes that you have available. The other thing is that I want you to think about planning your work around your move days. When you plan to have your machine down and you're going to have your machine's going to be backed up and then it's going to be set to the restore team, there may be some time in between those two appointments. It may be a day, it may be a half a day, it may be a couple of hours. So you need to understand and prepare for that work in between those two transitions. Part of it, anytime I go through a move or know my machine's going to be down or I can't get into my office, I always plan a set of items that I know I can work on offline that don't require me to be on my machine, or that I have access and have thought through how I'm going to access that data and those tools remotely and in other processes. So make sure that you're planning activities and your work around your move days and making sure that you're not booking yourself in situations that make it unrealistic if anything fails in this process for you not to be successful. So again, that's really thinking through your move days when you're planning those time frames. And another part of this is thinking through using windows.tcu.edu to remote into a machine. Many of you may be remoting into the machine in your office, so you VPN at home on your personal device, then you open up remote desktop and go to go to your computer in your office. Well, in this case, if your office computer is offline, you can use windows.tcu.edu. And windows.tcu.edu is what we call a terminal server. It's just a server that allows multiple people to remote into it, just like a regular computer in the office. The advantage to this is that now you have access to all of your shares and you have access to certain software that you might not have access to on a computer at home. So windows.tcu.edu is a great solution. We have information about how to connect to both your office machine as well as windows.tcu.edu on our Keep Working site at keepworking.tcu.edu. But again, windows.tcu.edu offers you an opportunity to work on a machine, even though the machine in your office may be down. It still gives you the ability to remote into something, access the files that you have online, continue to browse web services that we have in the office, and be able to continue to be productive and work. So again, note that these are really great items to help you think through being successful in your move. But the biggest thing that I'll always tell you is that some of these transitions are not always easy on everyone. There's a lot of anxiety that comes around these transitions. Some people might not get their data. Some people might not understand the new machines they're on. Some people might not know what to do with the new phone. Some people might be stressed out because they're having to wait to get their machine set up or waiting for some physical item in the space to be taken care of. So it's really important that you've got to be conscientious of the people around you as well and working with them to create success and knowing that their anxiety levels may be different than yours based on what's going on and what the expectations are on their workload during this time. But a lot of initial planning on your part and creating flexibility during this stage will allow you to be more successful as you start to prepare for this transition. So those were the items that we kind of had as helping you prepare through and think through your move, not only digitizing your files, but taking care of existing files and moving them to backup spaces as well as remote spaces you can access them remotely, thinking through what our overall backup process will be. And we're kicking that process off fairly soon, trying to look out for you and minimizing the interactions that we have on campus. Those are really our key concepts throughout that move process. And my last slide on here is really giving you the opportunity to ask questions. So Austin, have we had any new questions that have come up? I don't see much in the chat that have come up from the team that we need to push to everyone.
No, not yet.
Okay, y'all are being quiet. So if you have a question, post it to chat. Know that we're going to try to help answer your questions for you. If it's too long of a question to ask, just say, hey, I've got a question. We're going to be here for a little bit more time to see if we have any other questions posted in. I do want to thank you all for your time today. Thanks for coming to do this session. Make sure to sign up for the Ring Central sessions, the paper cut sessions, the collaborative workspace sessions. Those are really important to understand what's going on. I do know that we had that initial question as well about a passcode on the first two sets of videos that we put out. Please try those again and actually log out and log back in again and try those again to see if you can get into the tools from there, because that should be cleared out on those videos. But it's a good opportunity to see a recap of the things that we're trying to put out in these training sessions. So, one question coming in. Will the scheduling information be sent out via email? Wendy, that is a great question. Yes, when we start the scheduling process, we will be asking our technicians, we'll be assigning a backup team member to groups of people that are being moved, and they will be reaching out to you via email, and they're going to say, hey, here's my available times, please schedule an appointment with me, and they'll be telling you and working with you on that overall process. And then Terry, you said the paper cut schedule was full. Will another one be available? Yes, there is a paper cut schedule, a paper cut session scheduled for Thursday, I believe at 3 o'clock. That is still available and open. So make sure to go register for that session if you're interested in the paper cut and Xerox training that we have set up. All right, let's see. Charm just asked a question using a Fujitsu scanner at home and also that you also use for ImageNow. I'm not using it for ImageNow at home. Should I bring it back or can I bring it directly to the Harrison? So Charm, one of the things that I would say anytime that you have equipment that is being backed up, and that's whether you're bringing your computer back that you might have taken home or your ImageNow scanner, both of those we'd need on site so we can complete that process. We'll still have to move that ImageNow scanner to the Harrison afterwards, but it's going to need to have that license removed from that particular machine when we do the backup on site. So I would say that you're probably going to need both of them. Reach out to Austin if you have more questions about those and we can kind of work through those. Let's see. Kim asked a great question. When's the deadline to accomplish this before the move? You know, that's all hard because so much of this is up in the air too as we're going through our different phases. But the one thing I will say, Kim, is refer back to the Harrison move chart and note that if your team or your floor is coming up on a move date, either the 10th, the 14th, July the 24th, or in August or September, and again, some of those dates in August and September may be fluid, it would be a good idea to have all of these pieces done before you get to that point, because once we have to work on your machine and move those things over, you won't be using your old machine anymore. So anything that we've had you put in practice today would be very important to make sure that you have those done and finished before your proposed move date at this point in time. All right, it looks like we've got most everything in. Let's see, the Thursday paper cut session does not let you register. All right, well, I will look into those both from Wendy and Terry. Thank you all for posting that. I'll take a look at the session for that Thursday paper cut and make sure that it's still available. I don't think it's full. We'd have to have over 150 people that registered for that session, but I'll go take a look at it, see if it's going. If you're still having trouble with it, probably by tomorrow, reach out to the help desk and we'll see if we can walk you through the process or try anything different. But I'll see if we can have that fixed up by the end of today and make sure that it's ready to go. All right, let's see. If you don't have a scanner, your notes on your iPhones have a scanner as well. That's a great tip, Kim. Thank you very much. Taking pictures with your phone is another way to digitize documents, and using notes in your phone as well as creating images you can use a tool called Box Capture that auto crops the file and puts it directly into Box for you. That is a great tool and it's free. I really love using Box Capture when I'm digitizing files or scanning files in and don't have a scanner. So a really great tip. Any other questions coming in before we end this session? So far, everybody's pretty quiet. Once again, I want to thank you all for attending. We really do appreciate you. Good luck on the move. We're excited about it. Go attend the other training sessions, and I'll get that paper cut thing taken care of for you today. Have a great day, everyone. Be safe.